1 month ago, I put $10,000 into these 7 tiny altcoins with the goal of trying to hit over $1 million this cycle. And today, just 1 month later, that portfolio is already up a staggering 200%. And honestly, I'm not that surprised because the current macro setup feels eerily similar to what we saw right before the 2021 insane crypto bull run. We're even starting that cycle late. I was able to take $80,000 and turn it into well over $1 million. So in this first official update, I'm going to be walking through what have been the biggest gainers and what have been the biggest losers of these 7 altcoins. I'm going to talk about why currently I'm not looking to sell a single one. In fact, I have so much conviction, I'm actually still buying more at these levels outside of the challenge. And lastly, I'll do a quick check-in and update on all 7 of these altcoins and what they've been up to over the last month. If you guys have been watching my content for a while now, you guys know I'm a big believer that alt season is coming. It's going to be way different than alt seasons in the past, and it's likely going to be starting next month in October. This is going to be driven by the fact that the TGA rebuild should be ending sometime this month. We're going to likely be getting our first rate cut this week, which, by the way, I'm going to have a video out later in the week to talk about that after we have the FOMC meeting and break down all those details. But this is likely to be the first rate cut of many, not only this year, but also next year. Currently, the market is pricing in 3 rate cuts this year and 3 rate cuts next year. I actually think there's a chance we get even more rate cuts next year because Trump is on a mission to stack the Fed board. Jerome Powell is out next year, and he's going to get to appoint a new Fed chair. And the Fed cutting rates kicks off the credit cycle. The credit cycle means it's cheaper to borrow and lend. When it's cheaper to borrow and lend, you get more borrowing and lending, which means you get more money creation. And that's just another way of saying that global liquidity should go a lot higher. And it's not just because of rate cuts that I expect global liquidity to go a lot higher into 2026. There's actually a ridiculous amount happening right now in terms of easing cycles when it comes to other countries, in terms of things like the ESLR or the enhanced supplementary leverage ratio, which I've talked a lot about, which I think is one of the single most bullish pro-liquidity policy changes coming into effect that I think a lot of people still aren't paying attention to. Again, I'll link a video at the end of this video if you really want to go deep on these subjects. I cover it a ton. I just don't want to go too in depth on this video because I talk about it a lot already. We have seasonal bullishness in October. We have the fact that we're likely to see the end of QT probably before the end of this year, if not very early next year. We have TradFi going on CNBC and all these mainstream news outlets marketing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto to all of the boomers who hold the vast majority of the wealth. If you guys don't know, currently the vast majority of people who are buying the ETFs aren't institutions. At the moment, it's currently retail. And in my opinion, it's very likely that this retail buying these ETFs is that boomer, older generation money who currently holds trillions and trillions of dollars that they're just allocating a small portion of their portfolio via their financial advisor, etc., into Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, etc. Which for one just means there's a ridiculous amount of ammo left in terms of upside just from retail alone. But for two, we still have the single biggest future net buyer of crypto sitting on the sidelines, and that's these massive institutions, these massive funds who are still just barely starting to dip their toe into crypto. It just takes a long, long time for these things to ramp up, but we're going to really see this start to ramp up going into 2026. And finally, we have 2 really powerful altcoin specific catalysts on the board. First off, we have the altcoin ETFs, which according to Bloomberg, the vast majority of these are currently sitting at 90% plus odds of approval, meaning it's really, really likely we're going to see things like an XRP ETF, a Dogecoin ETF, a Solana ETF, and just an entire category of new ETFs go live through the end of this year and into next year, which of course, once we get a Dogecoin ETF, that just opens the floodgates for any altcoin that has any sort of buying demand to have an ETF and to have access to all of this like older generation money who allocates into these things, which by the way, I don't think it's going to be like a ridiculous amount of money that's going to go into these altcoin ETFs. That would be amazing. I think it's going to be a lot smaller than what we've seen from Bitcoin and ETH. But the fact is, these don't need a lot of money to go a lot higher because a lot of these altcoins are just so ridiculously tiny that even a small amount of inflows from these ETFs would skyrocket some of these tokens, because with the smaller your token is, the smaller the market cap of the project, the less money you need to send that project a lot higher. So yeah, you don't need a lot of buyers of these altcoin ETFs for them to be massively successful in terms of price for these altcoins. And obviously, if even one of these altcoin ETFs pops off hard enough, that's just going to make the entire market speculate on what the next, raging success ETF is going to be. And it sort of kicks off this weird cascade effect where like money really starts flowing into altcoins. On top of that, we have the Clarity Act, which is coming into play at sometime early 2026. And this is a comprehensive legal framework for how altcoins can operate within the US legal system. It just overall gives a ridiculous amount of clarity to these companies and invites a lot more companies to come in and start experimenting in the crypto space. But it's also going to mean more of this money in terms of this older generation. Now that the government's given their stamp of approval, more of that capital coming in, more of that institutional capital coming in, because now they have the legal clarity to be able to do that and to launch their own products and to be able to pitch these products to their clients. And it's going to mean just a ridiculous amount of like news coverage. You're going to see a lot of again, more people going on CNBC. Let's talk about the Clarity Act. Let's talk about these altcoin ETFs. And all of this is going to just thaw out retail more and more. It's just like such a massive legitimization effect I've talked about in the past. We've gone through multiple years where every time they saw somebody talk about crypto on CNBC, they were talking about how it was like drug terrorist money and it was just for ridiculously evil people doing ridiculously bad things. Like that was the talking points of these like experts on CNBC. So obviously, retail didn't want to go within 100 yards of it. Anytime I talked about crypto to retail, they thought I was literally a drug dealer or something. They were like, oh, get away from me. You run some sort of criminal enterprise because you are involved in the crypto space. We're going from that to the government stamp of approval, to all of TradFi, all of Wall Street, all these institutions pitching crypto on the news every single day. That is going to absolutely thaw out retail. I don't know why anyone is even debating this. This is so obvious. In hindsight, a year from now, people are going to look back and be like, yeah, duh, that was going to happen. Like, look at what they were doing. It's just like when they printed the stimulus checks in 2021, and in hindsight, everyone was like, oh yeah, of course that would have made asset prices skyrocket. In the exact same way, you should be looking at all this and be like, oh yeah, no duh, this is going to make altcoins go bananas. And I posted this chart on X and I've shown it in past videos, but this is what global liquidity has looked like in 2013, 2017, and 2021. All absolutely insane bull run years for crypto, all absolutely insane unhinged years for altcoins. And you can see that they're all perfectly tied to these huge bursts in global liquidity, as well as you can see that post 2021, it has been a desert in terms of liquidity. Like we've had these like little tiny spikes, we've had these like negative spikes, and we haven't seen anything even remotely close to 2013, 2017, 2021 leading up to this, which is why we haven't seen an alt season, which is why this crypto cycle has felt different, and which is how we know that we're just getting started, not ending. I also have shown this chart a million times on my videos, and I posted this on X. This is the ISM Purchasing Managers Index, which shows the business cycle in 2013, 2017, and 2021. These also correspond to those global spikes in liquidity, and they also show that since 2021, we haven't had anything even remotely close. The business cycle has been like absolutely just dead. And I'm sorry, I know I talk about the same things every single video, but like people really need to I feel like people need to be reminded this every week, because every week people are like, oh my gosh, so-and-so on X is saying that the cycle's topped. Has it really topped? Or is it really over? And all you got to do is like, look at, this has been going on since 1948. We've been tracking the business cycle since 1948, and it just goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and all the way up until post 2021. And then it changes. The first time since 1948, it just changes and just goes flatlined. It literally looks like somebody's pulse chart and they just died. Things are different. They have not been the same, and they have not acted the same that we've seen in past cycles. You could have your cycle theory like, oh, every cycle it's done this, every cycle it's been this way. Well, guess what? It hasn't done all the things it's done every cycle this time. It's been different. It's been completely different. But that all changes once we start the rate cutting cycle. Once we start getting these rate cuts, once credit starts getting cheaper, you're going to see the business cycle start to heat up. You're going to see global liquidity start to trend up. And then it's going to be in sync with what we've seen in past cycles. And so what do you think happens when the business cycle peaks up like it did in past cycles? When global liquidity peaks up like it did in past cycles, what do you think is going to happen to risk assets, to altcoins, to crypto? My bet is that the same thing happens that happened in past cycles, that we have an insane alt season, that risk assets go bananas. And I think this cycle has the potential to get radically out of control because we have these ETFs, because we have institutions involved in marketing crypto now, because we have this regulatory stamp of approval. I actually think there's like a non-zero chance this cycle could be like our .com sort of moment where alts really really go bananas. I'm talking even more than we saw in 2021. Yeah, we're not going to have the same liquidity that we had in 2021. That was like a one-time crazy COVID response, but that doesn't matter. Crypto is really, really tiny. It doesn't require a ton of liquidity to go a lot higher. It's about the direction of liquidity, the market structure around crypto, allowing for crypto to go a lot higher this cycle than it's ever been before, because none of this stuff existed in past cycles. Okay, let me get into my $10,000 to $1 million portfolio. This portfolio is made up of extremely tiny altcoins. These are what I call asymmetric bets. Yes, there's absolutely potential for me to invest in these things and lose everything, but my downside is obviously capped. If I put $1,000 in an altcoin, the most I could lose is that $1,000. But the upside, if I'm correct about this coming alt season, is unhinged. Some of these things, past cycles, there's one token I stuck $760 in. I know I talk about this a lot too, but it still blows my mind to this day. I stuck $760 in and it turned into $150,000. That gives you an idea of like, sometimes if you get it right, you get a little bit lucky, these things can go bananas. And so that's how I'm playing this market. That's the only way I could turn 10,000 into $1 million is by taking more risk, but for potentially more reward. And the way that my $10,000 to $1 million portfolio is built is it ties together the 5 biggest emerging narratives in the crypto space, narratives that I believe over the coming decades will be worth trillions and trillions of dollars. And these sectors are AI, obviously, DeSci or decentralized science, gaming, robotics, and then this last one's kind of hard for people to understand, but I'll explain it in just a second, and that's speculation. AI obviously is the newest and likely biggest narrative of this cycle. I just don't see any way that AI tokens aren't the vast overperformers this cycle. Retail just hasn't had a lot of exposure to AI in the traditional markets. The best example would be NVIDIA. It's the biggest single company on the planet right now. But it's huge. It's like a multi-trillion-dollar company. And I think a lot of retail wants early exposure into AI. They just currently don't have a means to do that. And I think once they start getting involved in crypto and they start seeing these crypto AI tokens, I don't think they're going to think that deeply on these tokens. I think they're just going to just like throw money at them because they're going to see AI and crypto or, whatever. And so I think AI crypto tokens are just like an easy bet that these things are going to do absurdly well as more and more retail onboards into crypto as alt season heats up. DeSci or decentralized science is just massive with a lot of these crypto founders like Brian Armstrong, Vitalik, CZ, etc. They do these big DeSci conferences. It is like a genuinely really cool kind of sci-fi feeling part of crypto where they are doing some really awesome things, trying to sort of reshape science and make it better, less bureaucratic, more streamlined, etc. And we've just seen anytime altcoins get a little bit of attention, DeSci absolutely skyrockets as a narrative. And so I think once, alt season really starts heating up, I don't see why it would be any different. After that is gaming. This one's probably a little bit more controversial because there's those in the crypto space that believe crypto gaming is going to be massive. Then there's those in the crypto space that think crypto gaming is the stupidest thing possible. I personally sit in the camp that I think it's a killer use case for crypto. I think ownable digital assets and digital economies are going to be a huge thing. I just think it's really early, and a lot of the early concepts that came out of the crypto gaming space were obviously like these Ponzi stupid things, but that's how it always is when something starts out. Like the early websites were also stupid, okay? The early internet startups were also stupid. The fact is that crypto gaming has raised a ridiculous amount of money. New crypto gaming projects launch all the time, and it's just a matter of time before one of these things really gains momentum. But even if you don't believe that, there's just like a common rotation that happens in the crypto space where, people get really rich on alts. And as more and more narratives get saturated, they start spending money on things like these gaming cosmetics or these like flex items like NFTs, etc. And that typically sends the value of those assets higher, which causes more players to come to these games and start playing them, which is kind of like a reflexive loop in terms of narrative that causes people to think, oh my gosh, these things are really taking off, gaining mass adoption, the assets go even higher, etc. We saw this play out in the 2017 crypto alt season, and we saw this play out in the 2021 crypto cycle, and I really don't see why this cycle would be any different. After that is robotics, and I don't even feel like I really got to explain this one. This one just seems obvious. People in crypto get way ahead of themselves. Retail gets way ahead of themselves, and they're going to see crypto robotics projects, and they're going to be like, oh, maybe that's the future thing, and they're going to invest way too much money in it. They did the same thing with metaverse. It was way too early. It didn't stop those assets from going absolutely bananas. And I think in the same way, you're going to see crypto robotics really take off. And lastly, the narrative that is probably the most confusing would be speculation because it doesn't fit into a neat box. But this is clearly a massive use case in the crypto space as a whole. We've seen this with meme coins. We've seen this with Pump.Fun. We've seen this with things like Hype. We've seen this with things like Polymarket. People love to speculate. They love to gamble in the crypto space. And so things that allow like new forms of speculation are, in my mind, a really good bet in the crypto space. All right, let's start with UNA. As of today, the market cap for UNA is sitting at $21 million. I initially invested $2,000 into UNA and it's currently sitting at $4,134, which is amazing. I've talked about UNA for like the past year, maybe the past 2 years. I've been talking about this project. I think it is one of the single coolest, most underrated crypto projects in the entire space. They would fit into both the crypto gaming narrative as well as the AI narrative, as well as the speculation narrative. And in my mind, the closest thing that I could relate UNA to at its current time would be something like Pudgy Penguins in the way that they're executing their playbook. So Pengu. They started with their NFT collection and they've worked to build this into an IP, utilizing AI, anime, multiple games on the horizon that are coming out, and a ton more. Currently, this is their main character for their IP, Hannah, and they built this thing called Hannah Studios, which is like this AI generative platform where you can generate AI videos, AI photos, and it's sort of like an aggregator of all the best AI platforms in one platform. And on top of this, they have some insane releases on the horizon coming out, some of them that lean heavily into AI that I think are going to absolutely just blow people away. And right now, Unagi is doing this crazy thing where they're using different AI agents working together to grow mindshare of their IP and their brand. And you can see right here that currently they're hitting more than 1 million daily views on Giphy. So their Giphy account has just been going out of control. And this is really similar, again, to Pudgy Penguins, where they started like really trying to push their IP on things like Giphy, on things like Instagram, etc., growing their accounts, growing their mindshare, so they could grow their overall brand. For me, I'm just betting on this team. They work ridiculously hard. Over the last 2 years holding this project, it has just gotten better and better and better. They've over-delivered every single time, which for me is an indication on the trajectory of where this project is headed. After UNA is Winner. Currently my Winner holdings, I put originally $1,000 in. It's up to $1,371. So it's gone up a little bit. It's done actually a decent amount. Winner is currently sitting at a $3.6 million market cap, meaning it is just super, super tiny. Like that is absurdly small. This is in the speculation narrative, and I just think it is perfect product market fit for crypto. It is on-chain gambling. And I know a lot of people talk about crypto gambling and all this kind of stuff. Most of those crypto gambling sites, they literally just have a token, okay? They have a crypto token, and that's how they're related to crypto. This is completely different. All of this is built on-chain. Think of it basically like the Hyperliquid of gambling, okay? You have Hyperliquid, which is like leverage, perps, etc. This would be like all the things you see in gambling, those casino games, except like online gambling. This is like an $80 billion market that's just growing year over year over year. And Winner is building the on-chain version of that. And they've actually been moderately successful. They've had 217 million in total betting volume. They've had 23 million bets placed. They've had 4 million in revenue generated. And they've had 10 million in profit shared. And Winner as well has been leaning into AI. So they have their Winner Bet AI and expanding more into this concept that's, let's say, Polymarket adjacent, which allows you to basically bet on anything. And where I think Winner is really set apart is it's really more in line with sort of like a launchpad, like Pump.Fun, in that it's like a platform for you to launch other platforms. Okay, so like they are the back end. They want all these builders to come launch front ends for all these things. So, you know, a million different prediction markets launching on it, or a million different, you know, casino front ends, etc. But it's all using the same backend. It's all using the same source liquidity. Best case, they're actually successful at this, and this could do insanely well. Worst case, I think you have an Altseason, and people are looking for, you know, you can't buy, there's no Polymarket token. There's nothing you could buy for that. So people are looking for something adjacent to invest into that's kind of like that. This is sitting at 3 million market cap. What's the chance that it gets some sort of bid and goes to 30 million or 300 million or something like that? I showed these charts last week. This was Gala Games before Altseason last cycle. It was just literally down only. And then this is Gala Games after. You can't even see that down only. It just literally looks flat because it ended up going from 0.0002 cents to a high of 71 cents. That is just absolutely insane. Obviously, I don't know what the outcome will be, but for me, that's what an asymmetrical bet is. It's something that could do astronomically well if the conditions line up, and I'm willing to take that bet when it comes to Winner. Geode, I put in $1,000 and it's worth $1,142. Currently, the market cap for Geode, this is one of the bigger ones, sitting at $60 million. Geode leans more into the robotics narrative of crypto. But what I really like about Geode is where I literally think 99% of these robotics crypto products are going to end up being vaporware. GeodeNet happens to actually be a legitimate project that uses the advantages of crypto, has a crypto token, but all of its revenue comes from outside of the crypto space. Currently, it makes an annual recurring revenue of around $5.4 million. And of that $4.5 million, 80% of that revenue is used to buy back and burn the tokens. And the way this project works is it's all about like hyper precise satellite positioning. So if you ever used your phone and like try to locate your phone, it'll say it's like somewhere in your house, or maybe it says it's in your backyard or your neighbor's house or whatever. It's always like somewhat right, but it's never perfectly precise. This uses a DPIN network of devices. If you don't know what DPIN is, I'm not going to explain it in this video. Coupled with satellite positioning to get like hyper to the millimeter precision accuracy, which is really important for robotics when it comes to like farming and all these other industries, which are the clients who use GeodeNet and where all of its revenue comes from. After that is SFG. I put $1,000 in SFG and it's currently worth $1,203. And this would fit into the crypto gaming narrative. SFG was co-created by the original creator of Magic the Gathering, which is like the single most popular trading card game of literally all time. And listen, obviously this token is not going to $100 billion or anything insane, but you would be shocked at how well crypto trading card games do in the crypto space. For example, this is Echelon Prime and it powers the parallel trading card game, which is like this crypto trading card game where you collect these various trading cards and you battle it out with your opponent. Obviously, it sounds super, super niche, but this is what the Echelon Prime token did back in early 2024. So not even during an alt season. This is just what it did last year. It went from just nothing all the way up to $986 million, almost $1 billion in market cap, which is actually insane. If Echelon Prime could do that during a non-alt season period, I think there's at least some potential for something like SoulForge, which is co-created by the creator of the single most popular trading card game of all time, Magic the Gathering, to do really well during an alt season. And currently the market cap for this thing is sitting at $5.4 million in market cap. So it's like just super, super tiny. And since last year, Prime has actually fallen quite a bit in market cap. So I'm going to compare this to the graph because it's sitting about at the same market cap that Prime was at its all-time high. But if SoulForge Fusion were to hit the all-time high market cap of Echelon Prime, which I'm currently, again, using the graph as a stand-in, an investment of $1,000 would grow to $176,000. So with this one, again, I'm not expecting this thing to grow to $1 trillion and be the next asset where everyone stores like, global wealth or something. I just think currently sitting at $5 million in market cap, it could do insanely well during an alt season and hit something maybe like the all-time high of Echelon Prime, which for me is, that's great. If this thing does 178x, I would be insanely, insanely happy. After that is Research Coin, which I put $2,000 in and it's currently worth $2,639. Research Coin is currently sitting at a market cap of $65 million. So again, this is one of the bigger ones of these tiny tokens. But let me tell you why I don't think that matters. I don't think that matters because Brian Armstrong is the co-founder of Research Hub. I know some of you guys have heard me say this a bajillion times. I literally think that's all that matters. I literally think that's all that matters when it comes to this token. Brian Armstrong is the co-founder. Retail's going to show up. They're going to hear that. And this thing is like, think in the vein of like XRP or Cardano or these like insane cult coins where you got to have like just this super simple, stupid, sticky narrative. And with our Research Coin, it's just that Brian Armstrong is the co-founder. On top of this, it just happens to be that DeSci is actually a ridiculously cool sector of crypto, and that Research Coin is a legitimate, awesome project that's doing amazing things when it comes to decentralized science. Their tagline is a new economy for science, where they're building a new model for scientific research where publishing and peer review lead to funding. And so they're kind of tackling the peer review process, the publishing process, as well as the funding process. And not a lot of people know this, but scientific funding is like a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And anytime a project is funded through Research Hub, they have to do it via research tokens. So like if they're going to fund for $5 million, you have to buy $5 million of RSC and fund it that way. And as you can see, they've really started to penetrate like academic culture. But on top of all this, RSC was just listed on Coinbase. So you can now buy RSC directly on Coinbase, meaning it's like fully retail accessible. And although it's currently sitting at 60 million in market cap, which again is a lot bigger than some of these other ones sitting at 3 million in market cap, the reason I still think this is just a huge asymmetrical bet is that the upside is unhinged. And if you're somebody who's like heavily in the crypto space, I'm sorry, you're going to hate this. I have to do it because it's like the only thing that retail understands. I'm going to compare the price of Research Coin to the current market cap of XRP to show you just how ridiculously underpriced it is in terms of other just ridiculous cult coins in the crypto space. If Research Coin were to hit the market cap of XRP, RSC would be worth $1,500. That would be a 2,750x gain, meaning every $1,000 you invested would grow to $2.75 million. I'm not saying that I think that's going to happen. What I'm saying is, given how mimetic this token is, given how much of a cult could be built around this token, I think there's a lot of potential upside left if we get a retail-driven like mania in the crypto space. After that is Virus, and this one I only put in $500 because at the time it was brand new. I was still doing my research into Virus. In retrospect, I wish I would have put a lot more into Virus than I did. That $1,500 has so far grown to $803.54. This leans into the speculation narrative in crypto. Again, think meme coins, think pump.fun, and that whole market. Currently, the market cap for Virus is sitting at 3.6 million, meaning it's just ridiculously small. And Virus creates meme coin-like social games. So their first game, Infected, was this game where like every token was like a different deadly virus. Some of you guys have played like a game like this on the iPhone back in the day where you're trying to like make the most deadly virus and infect the whole planet. If you guys remember that game on the iPhone, it's kind of like that, but with meme coins where like by the end of the season, only one meme coin is left, and that ends up being the most deadly virus. It wins, and everyone who got that token early makes a ton of money, and everyone who bought all the other tokens ends up losing money. Their second game, Insider, was like all these various companies. You would buy into a company, and then the biggest holder would become the CEO, and you were like waging warfare against these other companies. And at the end of the season, one company took over all the other companies. And if you were early into that company, you made a fortune, and everyone else lost money. And what I'm really betting on with this one is the team. They're really good at designing and building these games. They're really good at building a lot of attention and hype around these games. It leans into the things that I think make meme coins like addictive and make people want to get involved, but it gamifies it in a way that makes it, in my opinion, a lot more fun and a lot less of like this weird pump and dump stupidity that everyone's getting burnt out on, and kind of levels the playing field for like average people to make a fortune in, something like this. And I just believe with how good they are at getting these games to go viral, how good they are to getting users for these games and getting attention, that they're going to at some point get a lot of attention for their token, and that's going to drive the price a lot higher than it is today, currently sitting at 3.5 million or whatever in market cap. That is like so tiny, and it's just hard for me to believe that it's going to stay there, especially if we have any sort of all-season driven mania. It is ridiculously hard for me to believe that it would stay so small. And finally, my last token is Avo. I put $2,000 into Avo a month ago, and today that $2,000 is worth $17,747. Currently, the market cap for Avo is sitting at an insane $13.4 million. And a month ago, I made a video about Avo when it was sitting at just $581,000 in market cap. It was super tiny. And now today it's sitting at $13 million in market cap, and that is absolutely insane. And despite already going up quite a bit, I still think this token is ridiculously undervalued. I recently did a video on Avo where I invested outside of this challenge another $10,000 just into Avo because I'm such a big believer in what this project could become. Avo leans into the AI narrative, which I believe is going to be the single biggest narrative of this cycle. It uses AI agents to trade digital assets on your behalf, and it enables all sorts of cool things like index portfolios, basically allowing anyone to build custom on-chain indexes so that, for example, if I were to build like the 10,000 to 1 million index where, it had all these tokens that I'm talking about, anyone could one click and buy that index without having to go buy all those tokens individually, massively simplifying the process for buying those tokens, but also tapping into the $128 trillion asset management space. I genuinely believe a decade from now, the vast majority of wealth will likely be managed by like individual AI agents that work on your behalf. And the vast majority of financial products will likely be managed by AI agents as well. Even if you don't believe that, the crypto space is insanely complicated. If even like me telling you like the ticker Avo, like you might go search Avo and there's like 5 different projects that use the same ticker. It's just like really confusing. And anything that simplifies that process and makes it easier is going to see more and more retail adoption because people want all of this to be a lot simpler. Currently, Avo is only on Solana, and they currently only have one index. They've been working a lot on the backend infrastructure to make it really simple for anyone to launch an index. Once they got that going, they do plan on launching various different indexes outside of just CoinGecko trending coins. You can imagine meme coin indexes, ICM indexes, and all kinds of different things, as well as anyone could go launch an index and then go market it. Like I could go launch an index on Avo and then market it to people that follow me on YouTube, and then I'd get like a cut of the fees based on the trading volume of that. Or I could have like my own portfolio as an index, etc. But only tokens on Solana right now. But where I think they really unlock a ton of value is as they add in more chains. For example, if they were to add in just Base, so if it was Base and Solana, that's the point I think it becomes insanely useful, because now people could build these hybrid indexes of Base tokens and Solana tokens, and then let's say they add in Arbitrum and Ethereum and Avalanche and Sui, and suddenly you have like these really comprehensive indexes that really save you a ridiculous amount of time, allowing you to one-click buy all these assets across all these different chains. And currently with a market cap of just 13, it keeps changing because this video is live, but now it's 13.9 million. Currently with a market cap of just 13.9 million. Again, to illustrate just how ridiculously small that this token is, if it were to hit the market cap of XRP, an investment of $1,000 would grow to $12.64 million. I'm not saying it's going to go to the size of XRP. I'm just saying it's tapping into a multi-trillion-dollar market. It's making crypto investing way easier. It's hitting on the single most powerful narrative this cycle, which is AI. And that makes me insanely bullish about the future of this project. And obviously, in terms of my portfolio, it's been the single best performer, turning $2,000 into $17,000. And actually, outside of this $10,000 to $1 million challenge, I have a lot of other capital that I'm just investing of my own money from last cycle into the markets. And I have a ton more capital that I'm planning on DCAing into Avo over time, just because I am a massive believer in what's being built. Again, if you want to hear my deep dive into Avo, make sure you go check out my video where I did a full deep dive on what this project is and why I'm investing so much money into this project. Overall, with all these tokens, I have not sold any, and I do not plan on selling any of these anytime soon. In fact, as I said earlier, I'm buying more of these tokens with my capital outside of this challenge. And I genuinely believe that if we're getting an alt season like I believe we are going to get, then I have a shot at taking this 10,000 and turning it into $1 million. As crazy and as absurd as that sounds, I believe that if this is coming like I believe it is, that I have a shot at this really happening. Now, I'm not going to cut that short by, selling early or doing something stupid like that. I'm really all in on this bet and what I'm doing, and we'll see how it ends up working out. And really quick, the Obsidian Council is my private community where I share updates every time I buy or sell. I share my entire portfolio. I do weekly video market updates on the current state of the markets, these projects, everything in between, and a ton more. Currently, the Obsidian Council is closed to new members, but I'm opening it back up on October 7th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you're interested in signing up, join the waitlist in the description of this video, and I'll be sending an email on October 7th when I open it back up. As always, none of this was investment advice. None of this was me telling you to buy any of these tokens. This is just me sharing my personal journey, what I'm personally up to, and what I'm personally doing with my own money. Crypto is obviously super risky, and I'm clearly not your investment advisor. If this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.